Welcome, everyone. I'm Jenny Lengyel. I'm the current president of the TASH Board of Directors, and I wanted to welcome everyone to today's symposium, and hopefully you'll be sticking around for the celebration this evening. For those of you that may not know, TASH is an organization that was founded in 1975 for the advocacy, sorry, I'm having speech issues, advocacy for individuals with the most significant disabilities. At this point, TASH has been able to become a leader in research, best practice, and advocacy for individuals with significant disabilities. Today's event is the Outstanding Leadership in Disability Law. This event is the 4th annual event, and we are very excited to kick off the day with a symposium with 3 outstanding panels, all based on the theme of restoring rights. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael, the Executive Director of TASH.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Jenny. And I just have to say, I love your background, so we'll see it later today. And I love the Gershwin. It was like a 3rd cup of coffee for me, the musical interlude. So you'll hear that during the breaks. And I just wanted to say on a serious note, we have built this event to have breaks because Zoom fatigue is a real thing. So we have been trying to be real conscious of that. So let me just say that, again, I'm Mike Brogioli. I'm the Executive Director of TASH. You know, our mission, as Jenny alluded to, is to advance equity, opportunity, and inclusion for people with disabilities, including those with the most significant support needs in the areas of education, employment, and community living through advocacy, research, and practice. And advocacy covers a lot, but certainly legal advocacy is very much a part of that. And as we think about the work that we do, part of it is to support laws that benefit our communities. Part of it is to oppose laws that do not benefit our communities and to amend those laws and to seek the enforcement of laws that benefit our communities. So I think it's really fitting that we're gathered here today for this annual Outstanding Leadership in Disability Law Symposium, to be followed by an award celebration this evening where we'll honor Curt Decker. I want to thank all of our presenters in advance for sharing your experience and insights as we explore some very critical and timely issues. And I want to thank each of you, our attendees, for taking time out of your busy day for yet another Zoom call. But this one is as important as any. And indeed, the topics that we're going to be covering, restoring rights, moving beyond guardianship, that could be ripped from the headlines, but it's something we've known for many years is an issue and a problem that needs to be discussed and addressed. We'll be talking about Olmstead enforcement, and we'll be talking about the power of the protection and advocacy agencies working in partnership with self-advocates to advance community living. So we've got a great lineup of presenters, and I want to thank all of our presenters again in advance. And now I'm very happy to introduce Regina Kline, who will provide some context for today's symposium. And she's really incredibly well suited to do that. Gina served as senior counsel in the Office of the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice, where she provided legal and policy counsel regarding efforts to implement the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, and Olmstead's community integration mandate. Gina is the founder and CEO of SmartJob, the first global company singularly focused on closing the disability wealth gap by catalyzing employment through impact investment. She's a longtime friend of TASH. She's been instrumental in making today and tonight's events successful. And so Gina, I turn the mic over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you to TASH. I'm so sincerely grateful to always be included in these wonderful TASH events. This is a really important one. This is my 4th year in a row participating in this annual event. And this symposium and these awards are a real time to be with friends and colleagues, but it's also a time to reflect. It's a time to reflect on those that work tirelessly in the disability field, but also the legal field, advancing the rights of people with disabilities, and those that have really preserved and restored rights, which is the theme of today's symposium. We have just a very strong slate of speakers, which is a testament to both TASH and TASH's members today that will speak from a background of legal experts and practitioners, self-advocates and family members. That's throughout the afternoon, including a terrific presentation from our award celebration honoree, Curt Decker. Our speakers are engaged, as Mike mentioned, in truly timely and current discussions about rights. We're talking guardianship, supported decision-making, the enforcement of Olmstead versus LC, which couldn't be more important in terms of how state and local governments are progressing in ensuring that people with disabilities can live, work, participate, go to school, recreate in their communities with their peers and families, and as they see fit in the most integrated setting appropriate. And finally, we'll be talking today about the Protection and Advocacy Network and its truly important efforts to provide legal representation and advocacy to people with disabilities throughout America. We meet the second year in a row from home, virtually, and amidst this pandemic. And it's an unprecedented time. People with disabilities are disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. And this is a moment of great historical importance. It's also a time to reflect. I thought it would be particularly interesting to reflect on the last 50 years as we go into these really important conversations with such leaders on these panels who will speak today. The backdrop is clear that there's been significant progress for disability rights over the last half century. But we very rarely do a timeline before we have these legal and policy discussions about disability. And I thought it'd be interesting to reflect on 50 years of seminal law and policy in about 30 seconds or a minute. Let's see if I could do it. In 1963, we had this Developmental Disabilities Act that established the P&A organizations that you're going to hear about throughout today. In 71, Medicaid came on board to provide federal funds for people with disabilities, but it wasn't clear until 1981 that Medicaid would be provided in home and community-based settings through the Community-Based Services Waiver. It wasn't until 1975 in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that required schools to educate all children with disabilities in the least restrictive setting. It was 1986 in the Rehabilitation Act that supported employment was defined and funded through flexible supported employment grants to the states. It was 1990 that the seminal statute advancing the rights of people with disabilities was enacted, the Americans with Disabilities Act. It wasn't until 1999 that the Supreme Court issued its detailed findings and decision in the Olmstead versus LC Supreme Court precedent. It was 2014 that the Medicaid Home and Community-Based Services Rule explained that these Medicaid home and community-based services must be provided, should be provided in the most integrated setting appropriate. It was that same year that the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was advanced, which included the first federal definition of competitive integrated employment. These are seminal milestones, both in terms of law and policy. They advanced rights. We all know that the law itself didn't ensure outcomes, that there are tireless advocates and lawyers, those that have poured themselves into the enforcement of these laws and who will continue to advance effective remedies in the area of disability rights and therefore change. But where will this march towards progress go in the future? What is next? What must be continuously, vigorously enforced and defended? And what are the next set of rights and opportunities that disability rights lawyers, advocates, and community members will advance? That's what the subject of this conversation is today.